I'm somewhere different today. Not just on a rower. I'm here with my buddy Mark Bell.
Hey, what's up everybody?
Sacramento, California. Mark's gonna take me through his workout today. Then after that, we'll talk a little bit about our nutrition philosophies. I wanna talk about evolution in terms of diet. People see me and they think that I'm only the keto guy, or they think that I'm only the intermittent fasting guy. Mark is someone that I respect because he'll try a little bit of everything. That's what you have to do. N equals 1. You have to be your own experiment. You have to test things, see what works for you, but then reverse it and work backwards to try to understand the possible why of why that's working. Because that is what's going to lead to adherence. That's what I always say. Education leads to adherence. But above all of that, you gotta work hard too. Let's rock. This video is brought to you by Thrive Market. So Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery store. So no matter what kind of diet you're doing, I don't care if you're paleo, vegan, fasting, whatever, keto, it's all there, like a one-stop shop. So if you're trying to figure out, I don't know, what do you want to get at the grocery store? You don't want to bring this long list with you. You can use that link down below. You can get all kinds of things. You can sort by different diet types. So you can sub-filter and filter. Let's say I want to do keto, but I want to find keto baked goods, whatever, anything like that. It's that simple, and then it gets delivered right to your doorstep. You have it in a couple of days, but the cool thing is that link down below is gonna save you 30% off your initial order. Okay, so 30% off your initial order plus a free gift. So use that link down below in the description and give Thrive Market a shot. Now you guys know I'm all about cardio. Mark's all about cardio, but there is pretty strong evidence that cardio prior to a workout does deplete you pretty good. Save it for afterwards for the most part. Or if it's your structure of a workout where you're actually going to be hybridizing it, then mix it in, sure. But don't be mixing max heavy lifts with your cardio. That's never a good idea.
And we're just gonna walk forward with the sled to start. Cardio could be different for each person since the levels can be so different of where someone is. So for some athletes, like if you're a power lifter or a bodybuilder, this might be your cardio. Just walking with this, but try to get the heart rate up. Try to work up a sweat a little bit. A lot of people don't understand that like you'll benefit immensely from cardiovascular training even if you're trying to lift heavy, because not only will you recover from your workouts better, but you'll recover from set to set. In addition to that, you'll recover from rep to rep. So someone in better condition will be able to do more reps, more sets, more overall volume in their training. And the sled, the way that we're doing it right here, is working the glutes, hamstrings, the calves. It's also getting a lot of blood pumping through the heart.
Well, like you get that proper glute activation too, versus just walking on an incline or something.
Right. Yeah, and for people that don't have access to stuff like this, just shut off your treadmill and walk on it. You know, power the treadmill with your own body, or walk some hills.
You need to go out and buy an expensive manual resistance treadmill. No, just use whatever you're already using, just shut it off. Now what's the trick here? You like to sit low or you stay pretty high? Still stay pretty high, huh?
It doesn't really matter a ton, just trying to get lazy where you're just leaning, but truthfully, once you're going for a little bit, your legs just start to get fried, no matter what. But we are trying to just reach back with the toe each time. Get that leg underneath us. This is great exercise for people that have knee issues or have had knee issues in the past. Pumps a lot of blood to the area.
One of the things that I want to talk with Mark about after we're done working out is this thing called G-Flux, which is essentially the delta between your movement and how many calories you take in. There's a lot of interesting evidence that is demonstrating that when you consume more calories and work out more to match that, that you actually burn more calories than someone that's, say, consuming less and working out less. So for example, if I'm eating 2,000 calories per day and expending 2,000 calories per day, you would say that that is equal to someone that is eating 3,000 calories per day and burning 3,000 calories per day, right? You're still at net zero for both groups. But this thing called G-Flux actually implies that the person that is eating more and training more, even if they're at a net zero effect, is actually going to burn more. So the ultimate goal, this sounds crazy, is to be able to eat the highest amount of calories and move the most. Not always practical for people, but if you want that massive metabolic drive, that's what you're after. It's called G-Flux. You can look it up.
Look at the most jacked people are that way, right? Even the most jacked CrossFit girls, I see a lot of guys, they're counting the calories and they're like, I'm eating 1,800 calories a day, and their body fat percentage still isn't very good.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I see these CrossFit girls, they look amazing, they have hardly any body fat on their body, and they're eating 2,500 calories a day.
Yep.
Just to go off of what he just said.
Yep. It's lots of food, lots of movement. And you're probably wondering, okay, Thomas, you're an intermittent fasting guy. What are you talking about? You're crazy. It's a balance, right? You still want to have your calories where you want them. The intermittent fasting, the fasting, that is a different catalyst. That is driving up AMPK. That is for cellular longevity. That is for nutrient utilization. That is for all kinds of different metabolic pathways. We're not just after that. We want a little bit of all of it, right?
What we're gonna do on this set is not trying to like sprint, but we're gonna run. So just get a little push off each foot.
Okay, this is kind of like a TED Talk, except it's a sled talk.
That's right. We do one more lap of that. So it went from being something to get us warm into now this is just a good part of the workout. So let's throw a plate on there.
This is great. Like for me, I've got a 3-hour drive back home, back up the mountains to Tahoe. After this, sitting in a car always locks me up. If you guys are like worried about stiffening up, hip flexors, sled work is seriously one of the best ways to overcome that. I'm telling you.
Here we got one more lap, right?
I don't know about it's been one more lap to the last 10, but whatever you say. How many steps are you getting in a day, Red?
Probably still around 15,000 or so.
I think 15 is like a perfect.
Yeah, 20 is a little time consuming, to say the least. Nice work. What we got? What do we get into?
They're awake.
So we're gonna push the sled, that one, the tank.
Yep.
Back and forth, there's gonna be one guy doing that. The other guy is going to be kettlebell swinging or kettlebell snatching while that's going on. And the other guy is gonna be slant board squatting while that's going on. By the time whoever is on here gets there, then we switch. And whoever's here, we're just gonna be squatting and swinging or kettlebell snatching for the time it takes you to get back and forth.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, tell everyone who you are. Who's this monster that just showed up?
Nsima? Whose camera is this? Is this your camera?
It's his camera,
Is
but
it
it's my
your-
camera.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What's up, guys? I'm Nsima. I co-host the Power Project. And I also have a channel. It's my name, Nsima Inyang. But yeah, just having some fun. So this should be interesting. It'll be fun.
We're going. Let's go. Going with the sled. These two guys, they're super competitive, so they're gonna kill themselves. I don't mess around with that. I'm just gonna laugh and watch them hurt themselves.
Come on.
Yeah.
Calves.
Yeah. Nice work. Good. You good? We're done. Now we eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Oh, never mind. Nothing. Now we eat.
What kind of sandwich?
Now we eat in ketosis.
I thought that was the warm up.
Yeah, we got bacon coming in a second. Once we eat that and the ketones hit, should be good to go.
We gonna take a run around the building?
Sure.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Foggy out, eh?
Load.
Sometimes somebody's like, oh, when you train like that, you're burning fat, or you're burning
I think that is
glycogen. Is that too short-sighted, or?
that's a great way to put it. Like, so yes, I think that is short-sighted because, you know, we seem to think, and remember, like with anything in science, like nothing is, we don't know it. You know, you don't hear researchers say, we know, or we've concluded. You know, it's always, we hypothesize or we think, right? So we're using fats.
Except for Lane Norton.
You know, actually, Lane Norton is someone who, over the last year or so, I've heard say that a lot. In fact, he said it on my channel, literally almost just that. But fat adaptation is generally regulated by what's called PGC1A. So PGC1A is what kickstarts what's called PPAR alpha, and that
Tell Andrew this every day.
yeah,
Every
and that
morning.
travels to the nucleus of a cell and basically reprograms the cell to utilize fat. It's happening all the time, but in a ketogenic or fat adapted state, it's happening a lot faster. Now here's the interesting caveat, is fat adaptation is triggered by fat sort of manipulating that PPAR signal, right? So the common misconception is that if you eat a bunch of fats, you're going to trigger that. And that is to a certain degree correct. But if you look at the literature, PPAR alpha is stimulated predominantly by lipids that have been released from the adipose tissue. So it's almost as though fats that are released from your tissue act upon a cell differently than fats, free fatty acids that have just been consumed. So the best way to get fat adapted is to fast, because then you're actually utilizing the lipids that are stored versus just adding fats in. One of the ways that I've talked about fat adaptation is doing what's called a fat fast, which is where you take 24 hours and you literally only consume fats. And when I say only consume fats, I don't mean like almond butter or anything like that. I mean like friggin' coconut oil, olive oil, just drink oil. Because by default, you are hypersaturating your blood with free fatty acids. Is that good for you long term? No, you'd only do it for a day or so, but watch your ketone levels drive up. Another thing that I'm very adamant about is stop worrying about testing your ketones, because it doesn't mean diddly squat. I've been in keto for close to 11 years now, and my ketone levels are almost always less than 1 millimole because your body gets efficient at using them. So why would it produce excess? You know, it's going to produce as much as it deems necessary.
Can we back up? What's the point of a ketogenic diet? Why would someone try it? And do you normally actually do a regular ketogenic diet?
It's a good question. Like, why would someone do it? Number one, preference. At the end of the day, right? Like, I have always been a bacon and eggs guy, as long as I remember. So when I was super fat,
270, 280?
well, closer to 290. 290 at my heaviest. I mean, granted, I had some muscle on me too, for sure, but still very overweight. I mean, similar to you, right? I was a bulk gone wrong, where I just thought because I was lifting one day a week, following the old, remember DC training? Remember?
Yeah, dog crap.
Yeah. You know, so I took that to the nth degree. Was like, oh, he says you can train 3 days a week. I can train 1 day a week. And you know what? I got strong.
Yeah.
But I got really, really, really fat and had a hard time losing it. So anyway, back to the original question. You know, keto, I think there is a myriad of research that is clearly like in favor of keto for multiple different things. But I think the reason that people really end up feeling so good with it is because it puts them in a box, and by default, you're eliminating 80% of the processed garbage you would normally be eating.
And maybe because the challenge is pretty great,
Yeah, well,
maybe you follow it harder. Like, if you were to tell me, hey, Mark, you can get great benefits from swimming once a week, I'm probably not going to stick with only once a week. It's not hard enough challenge. It's got to be like a couple of times, right?
Totally, and it's gamified too with keto. Like,
Right.
it's gamified because you have a number, even though it's somewhat arbitrary, you have a number that you can measure, those ketones, and that is what are we doing here, some kind of spider thing? Yeah, I mean, when you have a number to look at and to chase, it really makes things work well. But I think, and you and I were talking about this when we were going on our 10-minute walk that was actually an hour and a half. You know, when you do that, when you're chasing some even arbitrary or totally subjective number. You do a lot of things in your mind, but it's tremendous for people that have an addiction to food and have an addiction to carbohydrates, because one thing that almost everyone in the nutrition community, all the way ranging from the Lane Nortons to the Thomas DeLauers to even the, well, not necessarily Jason Fung, but depending where you are, everyone can kind of agree that appetite suppression is one of the biggest pieces of keto. It really is. When you disrupt that insulin signaling, it does downregulate GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. It does downregulate ghrelin. It does affect leptin. These are all huge appetite stimulators. So for people that have an addiction to carbohydrates, and I don't care who you are, it exists. An addiction to carbohydrates exists. When you look at fMRI scans of the brain, it's so clear that the various regions of the brain that are involved in like fundamental reward-seeking behavior are lit up with sugar and with carbohydrates. Does that mean carbohydrates are bad? No, but it means that, have you ever met someone that has an addictive personality, someone that is more prone to addiction than someone else? They exist, absolutely. It's not a matter of willpower. Some people are genetically predisposed to being addicted to things. It may not manifest in drugs, it may not manifest in alcohol, but it manifests in something that we all have access to 24 hours of the day, which is sugar and carbohydrates, right? So when they get the taste of blood with that, it's game over. And being able to just remove that variable, that's the easiest thing. My wife, although she is in banging shape and she's freaking just badass, she is like that. She loves her carbohydrates. She has an amazing body because she works hard. But for her, keto is just like, she literally, her words, it puts me in a box. Puts me in a box, and it prevents that from happening to her. And I don't think we should ever be discounting that. People that are anti-keto because of the propaganda that is pushed out, and I hate to say this, by a good percentage of the keto crowd. And I think that's doing it
because they're dogmatic themselves.
It's dogmatic, and maybe they were picked on, maybe, who knows, right? It's like, I was picked on
Why
too.
do I got to deal with the way you were as a kid?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's just interesting because there's so much amazing good evidence with keto, and I hate to say this, but it gets destroyed and overshadowed by the hype, by the the ketone supplements and this and that, which again have merit in certain places, right? Military applications, things like that. But you can get me going on a rant because I get defensive over keto because I see it attacked for the wrong reasons. And as someone who
You flourished from it. It helped
It flourished for me. Not only did I build a business that sustained my family, on the surface level, but it really helped me transform. And my wife with severe autoimmune conditions and Hashimoto, and it quite literally saved her life. So it's like, screw you to people that want to rain on it. It's like
you want to go out and preach.
Yeah,
it's like, this has helped us so much.
I just had Lane Norton on the channel. I'd say a lot of my diehard subscribers said that was a big race. I lost a couple thousand overnight with that one.
I thought that was great.
But it's like, it's.
I'm excited to see you do more stuff like that. I think it's important.
If you're not willing to, like, this goes for life in general, if you're not willing to, as Lane said, reach across the aisle, but if you're not willing to, like, try and open your eyes and ears to a different perspective, then what are you going to do? Like, live in your own, like, egotistical, like, realm all the time? Like, I spent years trying to be people's guru, and then I realized that what works for me doesn't always work for other people, because you know what the most important thing is this, and it's, if you thrive on carbohydrates, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That doesn't.
Make sure you're not lying yourself with it, though, too.
Well, yeah, totally. Yeah. Don't think that
in any direction. Keto,
take
carnivore.
a little piece of each thing. There's so many things that I pick up from Lane, that I pick up from Fung, that I picked up, that I look at various bodies of research, because there is a practical application for so many things. And back to your very original question, this all comes back, is I do keto. I'm probably keto, like strict keto, seven-ish months out of the year. The rest of the time, when I'm not keto, I aggressively fast to compensate, right? And when I say compensate, I don't mean in like a eating disorder type fashion. I mean, I like to maintain a certain level of kind of fat adaptation. So if I'm gonna get out of keto, I'm not going to just go eat 4 square meals a day of carbohydrates. I'm going to implement more fasting as a compensatory mechanism.
Is it fair to say that you're obsessive compulsive in general?
Are you a litigation? Like what?
Yeah, no, I just.
Oh
no,
yeah,
I mean,
100%.
like maybe you
100%.
have to be,
And
maybe you have to pay more attention to like an eating disorder, because I
absolutely do.
I don't know you, but you're very competitive, and you seem very particular, and you have it seems like you have a plan and a program to follow. But sometimes for people that might give them a lot of anxiety if they can't follow it for a day or two.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say that, meditation is a big practice within my life for that, right? I have no problem. Yeah, absolutely. I suffered from, OCD as a kid. I was a light switch flipper. I was that, and it wasn't to a point where it affected my life really super negatively, but I had a big concern, like every time my mom would leave, she wasn't going to come back, and I'd have to hop on one foot X number of times, 26 times to be exact, and so I definitely had these kinds of things where I would have a sense of control, but then I found fitness and I found health as a way, because it was one thing in my life that I could control. No matter what, in a world where there's all these different variables that I learned at an early age I couldn't control, so, grant me the serenity, right? So it was with that, I learned that, fitness and health is one thing that I can control. And if you look at my history of, I want to build, I ran my first marathon when I was 11 years old. And it's a obsessive runner. I was obsessed, super skinny kid, and then started to hurt my knees. So I started lifting. I fell in love with lifting. And then, then I wanted to be a bodybuilder. So that's kind of, as we talked about before. So then I started eating 10,000 calories a day to get there. I think I permanently messed myself up doing that. I was pre-diabetic within a year of doing that. Eating 10,000 calories a day will definitely trigger some insulin resistance. How old were you when you did that? What?
How old were you when you started?
I was 19, 20. Yeah. And then what happened is after that, I went into kind of a corporate setting. Started just training 1 day a week, and then was sitting on my butt eating that same amount. So you can imagine, I put on muscle quick. There's a good layer underneath there, but maybe, when I cut down, I was 200, 210 lean, not what people would think. So anyway, the obsessive compulsiveness is what makes me who I am, and a lot of extreme athletes and great athletes are that way. But you have to maintain control of it, and awareness is the first thing. And anxiety, depression, it's a very real thing. And in the industry that we are in, we're visible all the time, so that can really exacerbate that, right? I'm in my 30s, but you have to be very careful with that. And fasting is a way for me. And you probably wonder, that's why I'm always preaching, don't fast every day. Don't fast every day. You're like, why shouldn't I fast every day? What's wrong with 16-8 every day? Because it's a thin line, and it's a gray line, until it's a black line. And the next thing you know, you're eating 800 calories a day, wondering why your metabolism is slowed. And it's a very important thing.
I think it's maybe if there is one or two main things that you've shared with people in the last several years that has been wow, that has really made a huge impact, where they made this tweak, this little change. Could be fasting, could be any of the things you've recommended.
Yeah, I'd say, and this is one that universally I think people agree on, is breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. And that is bigger breakfast, on days you're not fasting, of course, bigger breakfasts, slightly smaller lunch, and small dinners, and then shut it off at 6:30 p.m. Just, that alone, it's just metabolically, we are so much more designed to be eating in the morning. But on the days that you fast, obviously that doesn't matter, right? But I'd say for everyone that could apply, I think if everyone were to implement that, they would be amazed, because the big reason is, if you eat a big breakfast, you're satiated, and later in the day, you're mentally fatigued. You make cruddier decisions. So it doesn't matter what kind of diet you're doing. If you've been skimping on calories, then later in the day, you come home from work, you're exhausted, you're gonna just be eating and not really realize it. Whereas if you're satiated, then when you're in times of mental fatigue, you're less likely to binge. And it's that cumulative thing, right?
Awesome. And then, of course, what have you done for your arms? Because they're pretty damn jacked.
The funny thing is, I don't really even train them anymore. But it's just
how'd you keep some of the muscle mass, you think, from when you were heavier?
You've been saying it a lot. You've been talking about. You posted something this morning about how do you maintain muscle when you're running and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that we could get. You want me to get nerdy, or you want real talk?
Yeah, get nerdy. That's what you're here for, right?
Yeah, right. So the more cardiovascularly fit you are, the more, from an epigenetic standpoint, your body learns to retain it, right? Your body doesn't want to waste muscle. It really doesn't. It's not it's metabolically expensive to maintain, but it's also it's not your body just is seeking out destroying muscle. It all depends on your nitrogen balance and everything like that. So it's really a number that really can be swayed one way or the other. It's if nitrogen balance is adequate, if you're in a deficit, you're not necessarily just breaking down muscle. Maybe you're breaking down fat. It's really confusing, right? So with running, I've been running from such a young age that I think my body epigenetically has learned to deal with that. It's adapted to that. But I also know that, in the sake of someone that is keto and fasts a lot, fatty acid oxidation, all that whole thing, is very muscle sparing, right? So ketones are muscle sparing. So for me, this could be wrong, but this is my own philosophy on it. I've maintained so much muscle throughout, I run between 40 and 70 miles a week. So it's like,
40 and 70 miles. Currently, you run between 40.
So I stopped back in like November, so I'm down to like 20, 25 right now, but just because of my back. But yeah, so generally, I've just been a runner my whole life. So, and then when I'm up in Tahoe, I'm running at 6,500 feet, right? So it's just, I am an endurance athlete through and through. I just have a strength trainer's body because I've just been doing that for so long. So it's like running is my thing. So I think I'm just conditioned. You guys know Nick Bear, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example, right? Like, look at him. In sub 3 marathon, and the guy's jacked out of his mind. And it's the point is that for me, ketones, that's muscle preserving. That's, for me, it's something that I think my body has conditioned itself to believe that, okay, when it can burn ketones, it's leucine sparing and it spares muscle. But what is the biggest thing that we have to maintain? You can't just maintain this muscle if you're in an aggressive deficit all the time. If I'm going out and I'm running 12 miles, you better believe I'm eating to compensate for that. I'm not just, yes, I will challenge myself and fast on those days sometimes too, just to like, come on.
To build the muscle, did you stop running for a while? Or
Yeah, I definitely wasn't running as much there.
When
but
you were real heavy?
I was still a cardio guy, like, for sure.
Okay.
When I was big and heavy, no. I thought sitting on the recumbent bike was kind of cool. And that was like one of the biggest things for me. It was like going from an athlete
I
to...
think there's something to be said about that. Like, once you have the muscle,
Yeah.
then it's a lot, like your body, like you were saying earlier, your body doesn't necessarily want to get rid of the muscle.
Yeah.
But it might want to get rid of the muscle if it hasn't been on your body for that long.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to build it up,
Totally, man.
it might be harder.
I mean, look at, like, you do a ton of cardio, and like, you're maintaining muscle. You look better than I think you ever have. And it's like, you're a monster. Like, you do everything.
Yeah, dude, like that's the thing. It's funny. I started doing a lot of fasting 4 years ago now, probably. And I did a DEXA scan each year since then. I haven't lost any muscle. I went from
gained,
265 to, I've actually gained a good amount of muscle tissue, and I've gotten leaner, and I still fast pretty much every day. I'm fasted this morning. So it's...
We just joke about it a lot on the podcast now because, like, if we just flat out say what we're doing, they sometimes won't believe us.
Yeah.
So we just make it more absurd, especially with him. Like, he doesn't sleep. He sleeps 3 hours a night.
That's not true.
I know. We just make it up just to throw more salt in
Well, it
people's
sounds like me
wounds.
for real.
Yeah, right.
It's on my sleep right now. But the muscle thing, it's crazy because we think that muscle's like just this appendage that hangs on our body that our body wants to get rid of. Like, it's so funny because when you look at everything now, it's a secretory organ. Like, it's secreting myokines that communicate. Like, what is associated with like essentially like death and mortality? Where is that? Sarcopenia, right?
Yeah.
It's like as soon as people start wasting muscle, it's either a leading indicator that something's wrong or a lagging indicator that something's going on. But no matter what, like, all roads lead to Rome, and we're like seeing like sarcopenia, death, right? Whether it's just aging or sickness or medication or whatever. So I think in a healthy individual, operative words, healthy individual, like, muscle is like life. It's maintaining life, and it's like, as long as you are healthy and have vitality, your body's going to do what it can to preserve that because it's doing a lot of things. But then, what do you always talk about? Movement, right?
Yeah, you gotta move.
Yeah, and like, I think one of the biggest things, I just posted like a reel on this, that like probably the most important thing for fasting, if you ask me, in a healthy person, is when you are fasting, you should be working out. Why? Relevance. Like, your muscles, that way when you're not eating, your muscles are communicating to your brain, hey, I'm relevant, don't burn me, right? Whereas if you were fasting and sitting on your bum, what's it gonna say? Oh, he's not eating, let's go ahead and break this stuff down, right? But like, move, because communicate, keep telling the body that, hey, I'm relevant, don't burn me, I'm being used, because the body is always in that preferential mode where it's gonna use what it prefers or what it needs, right? So it's like, I don't not train on a fasting day. I have my rest days on an eating day. That makes more sense from a recovery standpoint, right? Anyway, maybe I'm just crazy. I am crazy, it's all good.
And you think fasting and keto go well together because they, like, when you're in ketosis,
Who's
it kind of
interviewing who?
mimics.
Whose channel is this, by the way, Mark?
It kind of mimics. This is my gym, buddy.
Yeah, I guess so.
So it kind of mimics. They mimic each other a little bit, right? When you're
Totally
in
do.
right?
Yeah, keto is, in essence, it is fasting mimicking, right? So keto is the ability essentially to fast, but with food. So yeah, they work tremendously hand in hand together, but I think that's the common misconception, is that they have to go together.
Right.
And I think we see that in like the content world. It's like, if you like fasting, you automatically are a keto guy. If you like keto, you automatically like fasting. That's got to stop, because like, there's lots of people that fast with carbohydrates, and I think, yeah, exactly.
Carbohydrates. Yeah.
Exactly. It's Like I think fasting and like paleo work tremendously well together, and like manipulating timing and let's not forget who brought us to the dance with fasting in the first place, okay? And everyone's gonna hate me for this, but if I recall, back in the 90s, it was the vegan community that was really talking about fasting a lot back then, right? There was a lot of like the Patricia Bragg, like Bragg's amino acids and the Bragg's. They were talking about quote unquote the miracle of fasting along with veganism, along with that. So I'm not saying I'm vegan and I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying let's not forget who started talking about that stuff pretty early on, long before the keto world was talking about it. So I think we have to give a nod to the fact that fasting's been around for a very long time. And, the nice thing about fasting is that it's universally applicable. Like plug it in, plug and play, whatever diet you want. It's a timing system. So don't hate on other diet categories because they might still want to engage with intermittent fasting. And that's what I do with my brand. I don't alienate brands. I don't alienate diets because they all, vegan keto, fasting keto, like it all intertwines. Like who cares? Yeah.
It all work. Time to podcast, huh?
Guess so.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
All right, so join Mark Bell and I on our race to 0 followers as we continue to irritate people with our, level-headedness that people don't like. I don't know. But anyway, Mark, I appreciate it. And where can everyone find you?
Thank you. That was a great workout. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on most platforms. I also have a YouTube channel, which is Super Training 06, and the podcast that you're about to be on just in a couple minutes, which is Mark Bell's Power Project.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.
Bye.